Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Hong Kong Horror. I'm your narrator, Simon. Tonight, we're diving into a place that every single one of us knows too well, somewhere we all visit multiple times a day, the bathroom. On average, most people use it between 4 and 10 times a day, so it's one of the few places we've spent a fair share of our lives in. It's an essential part of our routine, but it can also be one of the most vulnerable. So let me ask you this. Have you ever experienced something strange or even terrifying during one of your visits to the bathroom? Tonight, we'll be covering 2 supernatural bathroom stories that made its rounds in Hong Kong. Some of you may have heard of these before, but I think most of you have not. After both of these stories, I'll share a little bit about what I personally think happened here from a cultural perspective. So if you're interested in that, please stick around till the end. So with that, let's settle in, turn down the lights, and let's jump right into it. So this first story was shared by a young man from Hong Kong. Let's call him Henry. The following incident occurred during Hungry Ghost Month, when, according to tradition, the gates of the underworld are set to open, and the spirits are free to wander among the living. Henry had just graduated from college with an accounting degree. Like many fresh graduates, he dreamed of starting his career at one of the big prestigious accounting firms in the city. But unfortunately, those doors didn't open for him. Still, he was lucky enough to land a position at a small family-owned accounting firm. It wasn't the glamorous start he had imagined for himself, but during a year where so many of his friends were struggling to find jobs at all, Henry felt fortunate just to be able to get his foot in the door. In his mind, this was just the first step. If he worked hard enough, put in the long hours, and proved himself, he could eventually apply again and move up to one of the large international firms. That belief became his driving force. Henry quickly gained a reputation in the office for being a dedicated worker. He was often one of the last people to leave at night, sometimes the very last, long after the rest of the staff had gone home and the building had gone quiet. While most people dreaded staying late in the dimly lit office, Henry saw it as an opportunity to get ahead. What he didn't know was that, during Hungry Ghost Month, being the last one in the building wasn't always a good idea. Henry wasn't a religious man. He didn't believe in ghosts, spirits, or anything remotely supernatural, at least not until tonight. What happened would leave him questioning everything he thought he knew. In the accounting world, there were times during busy season when the workload spiked, and he would find himself working until 2 or sometimes even 3 in the morning. Of course, there's no overtime pay for staying late. This random Tuesday night was one of those nights. The rest of the staff had gone home hours ago, and by now, the entire office was quiet. At around midnight, Henry realized he hadn't eaten a thing since lunch. He had been so buried in his spreadsheets, laser-focused on meeting his deadlines, that he hadn't noticed the hours slipping away. Now, his stomach was making it impossible to ignore. With a sigh, he decided to take a short break to head downstairs and grab something quick from one of the nearby 24-hour stalls. He wanted to be back at his desk in 15 minutes. He grabbed his phone, his wallet, and the office keys, unaware that stepping out of that quiet office was going to change the rest of his night. The building had a small unisexed bathroom on each floor, tucked behind the stairwell, only accessible with the key meant for that floor's tenants. Since it was on the way out anyway, he decided he might as well use it before heading downstairs to grab food. As he walked toward the bathroom door, a man in a white dress shirt stepped out. Henry was busy scrolling through a backlog of text messages. He hadn't had time to check while he was working, so he didn't look up directly at this man. Still, as they passed each other, Henry felt an odd chill, a cold breeze that didn't belong in the still, stuffy hallway. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw the man turn the corner toward the stairs. He didn't think much of this. After using the restroom, Henry waited by the elevator. That's when the thought struck him. Hold on. Why would anyone else still be here? The bathrooms on each floor could only be accessed by someone with a key to an office on that same floor. And at this hour, there shouldn't have been anyone else around. The other tenants on Henry's floor were small shops. None of them stayed open later than 9 p.m. It struck him as a little odd, but he brushed it off and went downstairs for food. When he returned, his office was the only one with the lights still on. That night, nothing else happened, but the next evening, Henry found himself working overtime again. He had the radio playing softly in the background, keeping him company in the otherwise silent office. Then, without warning, the station cut out, replaced by a sharp wave of static and strange distorted voices. It sounded like a bunch of different radio stations mixing together. Strange, Henry thought, as he turned the radio off, stretched, and glanced at his watch, 1:58 a.m. He decided to take a quick bathroom break before diving back into work. Stepping into the dim corridor, he was met with an unsettling sense of déjà vu. As he reached the bathroom door, a man in a white dress shirt stepped out again. The same man he'd seen the night before. This time, Henry's eyes followed him. The man walked past without a glance, heading toward the stairwell, then slowly ascended the stairs to the next floor, disappearing into the shadows above. Curious, Henry tried the bathroom door without his key. Perhaps the lock is broken, and anybody could just enter. That would explain why people from other floors would be able to use it. But as Henry tried to turn the knob, it was locked. It wasn't broken, so you would need the key to enter. After using the restroom, Henry returned to his desk and decided that he was at a good stopping point for his work. He decided to call it a night and start heading home. He grabbed his laptop, put it in his backpack, and headed over to take the elevator downstairs. At the ground floor, as the elevators opened, he ran into the night guard who was about to step in. He must be heading up for patrol. Henry stepped out first, turned to say goodnight to the guard, and froze. Behind the guard was the man in the white shirt, except now he was semi-transparent. His lower jaw was missing. His whole body looked fractured and mangled, and his eyes stared vacantly as he stepped into the elevator behind the guard. The guard didn't seem to notice the man behind him at all. Instead, he grinned at Henry and joked, "Working half day today? It's only 2 a.m. he said with a chuckle. He tapped the closed door button on the elevator. Henry couldn't bring himself to laugh. His hands were trembling. His voice refused to work. He just stood there, frozen, eyes fixed on this man in the white dress shirt as the elevator doors slid shut. That image, cold, deformed, expressionless, burned itself into Henry's mind. Later, Henry looked into the building's history. That was when he learned that, years before he started working here, someone had jumped to their death from the upper floors of that very building. From that night on, Henry made sure he was out of that office before 11 p.m. He'd rather come in earlier to get his work done. He avoided that bathroom as much as he could, unless it was absolutely necessary. This next story also takes place in a restroom, but this time it's in a café. At the time, Nora was 19 years old, a university student who had just started a part-time job at a small neighborhood cafe. She'd only been there a few weeks when her boss approached her with a request. Could she switch to the night shift on the weekends, staying until closing at 11:30 p.m. The night shift paid a bit more, and Nora was saving up for a new MacBook, so she agreed without hesitation. She figured it would be an easy way to pad her savings, just a few late nights each week. She had no idea that one of those nights would leave her with a story she'd never forget. The night in question fell right in the middle of Hungry Ghost Festival in Hong Kong. Before heading home around 8 p.m., the boss stepped outside with a small metal basin, placed it by the curb, and lit a stack of joss paper. The thin smoke curled upward into the humid night air, a traditional offering meant to keep wandering spirits at bay and protect the shop. With that done, he wished Nora and her coworker Adam a good night, then locked up his office and left them to handle the close. It started raining shortly after the boss left, putting out the flame outside that was burning the offerings. By 10:30 p.m., business had slowed to a crawl. With no new customers coming in, Nora and Adam decided to get a head start on their closing duties so they could lock up right at 11:30 and head home. Nora took the bathroom, scrubbing and wiping it down, while Adam took the trash outside the front. That's when the door chime rang. A middle-aged woman stepped inside. She wore black pants and a white jacket. Her hair was damp, as if she'd been caught in the rain outside. Her face was pale, and she stood stiffly, shivering slightly as if chilled to the bone. Without ordering anything, she asked if they had a bathroom that she could use. Normally, it was for customers only, but Nora hesitated only for a moment. Something about this woman's appearance made her seem so cold and uncomfortable that it felt cruel to refuse her. Nora led her toward the restroom. The woman hurried inside, locked the door behind her, and Nora returned to the dining area to start wiping down the tables and chairs. A few minutes later, Adam came back inside from taking out the trash. When Nora casually mentioned the woman in the bathroom, he looked puzzled. He'd been standing right outside the entire time, but he swore he didn't see anyone come in through the front door. Nora thought Adam was just trying to mess with her and brushed it off. But 10 minutes went by, and the woman still didn't come out. Finally, they decided to check. Nora knocked on the bathroom door. No reply. Reluctantly, she slid the key in the lock and pushed it open. There was no one inside. The only things left behind was a strange, heavy smell and something thick and black in the toilet, like vomit. Her stomach turned. Adam quickly reached over and flushed it away, but before they could process what they'd just seen, the door chime rang again. They both looked toward the front door, but there was no one there. Now, genuinely unnerved, they moved fast, cleaning up, shutting things down, and locking up early. As they were pulling the front gate closed and locking it up, Nora froze. Through the gaps in the metal, she could see her. The same woman. She was standing inside the cafe, right by the bathroom door, staring back at them. That was all it took. Nora and Adam ran without looking back. The very next day, Nora quit. And even now, whenever she passes by that cafe, her eyes can't help but drift to the spot near the back, the place where the bathroom door stands. So, what do you guys think happened here to Henry in the first story and Nora in the second story? Both of these incidents took place during Hungry Ghost Month, and both revolves around bathrooms. Here's my breakdown of each of these stories and what I personally think happened. In Cantonese culture, there are several red flags here in Henry's experience. The incident happened during Hungry Ghost Month, the period in which the gates of the underworld are believed to be opened and the spirits roam freely among the living. Staying alone in a quiet office late at night during this time is considered risky, especially near yin areas like stairwells, elevators, and bathrooms. These are the kind of places where energy is stagnant, making it easier for spirits to linger in. The man in the white dress shirt that Henry kept seeing looked normal when he first came out of the bathroom, but when Henry saw him again going into the elevator, he was missing his lower jaw and had a fractured body. I think this is the spirit's true form, reflecting the way he died. A missing lower jaw is probably linked to a violent trauma or injury, most likely from the impact of jumping out the window. Henry also saw this spirit at almost the exact same time 2 nights in a row. This suggests that this man was a looping spirit, where he's mostly stuck replaying his final moments due to unresolved energy or resentment. Yunhei. I think he might be replaying the final moments in life, possibly taking the elevator up to use the restroom, then taking the stairs up to a higher level floor before ultimately jumping out the window, then going back inside, taking the elevator up, and replaying the whole loop all over again. Also, the guard not seeing the man points to the common belief that some spirits are only visible to certain people at certain times. Often, when that person's own life energy is lower, especially when they're tired, like Henry was, as he's been working late. As for Nora's story, her boss was in the process of burning offerings to the dead during Hungry Ghost Month before he left to go home. The sudden rain abruptly put out the flame that was burning the offerings. Lighting joss paper before closing is a traditional act of appeasing spirits so they don't follow you. Heavy rain extinguishing this is considered unlucky because it cuts off the offering midway, possibly offending any nearby spirits who see it as being denied or interrupted. So the offerings could be what attracted the spirit in the first place, as she came in hopes of receiving the offerings. So what was the black vomit that Nora found in the toilet? In folk belief, unexplainable stains, foul-smelling substances, or strange bodily fluids left behind suggest a haunting. Spiritual residue left when a ghost has manifested. The black color could be symbolically tied to decay and illness, reinforcing that this was not from a living human. Both Henry and Nora's experience have some overlapping details. In both cases, the encounters happened in or near restrooms. In Cantonese belief, bathrooms have heavy yin energy because they are moist, enclosed, and often windowless. They're also considered unclean places, both physically and spiritually. This makes them prime locations for spirits to appear, especially during Ghost Month. This is the time of year when reports of incidents such as Henry's and Nora's spike. Have you ever experienced anything similar in your own life? Let us know in the comments below. We would love to hear your own personal experience. Thank you so much, Hong Kong horror fans, for making it all the way to the end of this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed tonight's stories, and I'm looking forward for us to meet again next week.